Get ready. Checkpoint. Congratulations.
Greetings, program, and welcome to another Budsday today. I'm Cassette Blue.
And I'm Sun versus the Moon.
It's good to see you.
Hey, bud. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We just took a little nap. We were both a little tired. Just we
Actually, full on nap times. It was fantastic.
yeah. We wrote our outline, had some dinner, and I'm like, I'm tired. I gotta take a nap. Took a nap, had a little itis, woke up, feeling a little better. Still a little groggy, if I'm completely honest, but we're jumping into it, and we're gonna go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Budsday today. We are here yet again to bring you the latest news and headlines in the video game industry.
A few people might even say latest and greatest, but we appreciate it.
I don't know about greatest. They are the latest from our pool of interest.
Yes.
All right. So speaking of that, well, before we do anything, okay, we have some business. We have a quick rant straight off the top. So let me just full screen it. Okay, so I mean, come on, right? Is there really much to say? So Giovanni Colantonio from Inverse here, Resident Evil Village. Ethan Winters is the worst video game hero of all time. Ethan Winters, the star of Resident Evil, is a halfway baboon, and I hate the man. Fuck you. Shut up. Get over yourself, you big dinglebat. Ugh. I just gotta say real quick, Ethan Winters is a fucking legend.
Actually, yes.
Yeah. He's awesome. And if you don't appreciate how much he cares, he simply exists to care about his family. It's quite literally it. He starts the entire 7 to go find his wife, and now he's doing all this to find his daughter. Like, the man is singularly focused on, he's not out for glory. He's not a military person. He's not a cop. He's not out hurting anybody. He's just saving his family. And he straight up loves them. And he's awesome. And P.S. his fucking story is awesome. The end of 8 is awesome. So fuck you, man. Sorry for all the swearing. This pissed me off when I read this. Because the fact that he says he's a buffoon and I hate him. It's really refreshing playing as Ethan from a different perspective. You know, all the Resident Evil characters are usually anime pro-tags, and the fact that Ethan, and they're all awesome. I sent this to Cassette the other night because I'm on now my third playthrough of Resident Evil 8. I played through Resident Evil 7. I played through it three times on PSVR, and then I played through it one time recently on PC. So I've played through that a bunch, and then I played through this again, and I messaged Cassette and I said, the fact that Resident Evil has so many awesome protagonists, I could not even begin to tell you my favorite protagonist in the Resident Evil ethos. I think there are so many good ones. The fact that he can stand among those fucking legends is cool, man. That alone puts him like, you know, you should have a little more interest or respect for him. But the fact that his story is just so pure and so good, man. It's just saving his family. And if you have a problem with that, like, you got issues, man.
I think there's some I'm like outside of this article, I think there are some interesting things about like weird tonal stuff, like inconsistencies with the way he reacts to stuff, but I just don't know if that's necessarily like a character defining criticism.
Sure.
It basically all comes down to the fact that, you know, he's just an everyday dude who's just thrown into this shit, and he just makes do with the situation best he can. You know, he loves the people that he's trying to save, and, you know, it's kind of a beautiful message that sometimes you can go through hell because the people that you're going through hell for are worth it.
Yeah, he hadn't seen his wife for 3 years, and then he just randomly gets a video message that says stay away, you know, like, what the heck, man? Like, and then he goes through all that, experiences everything that happened in the Baker Mansion, and then boy, 8 is a revelation. Please play it. It's so good.
If you enjoyed 7 at all, or you just like Resident Evil at all, just play it, please.
It's amazing. I want to play it right now. In fact, I woke up this morning and I wanted to start playing, and the fact that I haven't booted it up today because I knew I'd spend like 5 hours playing it, and then we'd be even further behind right now. There you go.
I think I'm playing it more tonight. Yeah,
I'm absolutely playing it more tonight.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump over to our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to touch on some E3 topics initially, and then the topics this week are fairly varied. We have some hardware news, some console news, some regular entertainment non-video game news, and then some Sega dumps.
Video game news.
Yeah. The first thing we're going to talk about, more confirmations for E3 this year. Nothing extraordinary or out of the blue, but we just have a little more of a rundown of what's happening. So currently our company list has expanded, and they're also doing a digital event. So Cassette, do you want to go over the dates themselves and then the digital event?
So what's going to be happening is that the E3 proper is going to be starting on the 7th of June through the 15th. But from the 7th to the 12th, no, 7th through the 11th, it's going to be media only. So they're gonna, as usual, be able to see all the announcements and previews ahead of time of the public, so that they can do all their own write-ups and presentations that they need to do. And then from the 12th to the 15th, the rest of the public is going to be able to access the content of the E3. It's all basically going to be through their own special portal. As the article from Eurogamer was kind of describing, some interesting gamification and leaderboard systems and content sharing that people can participate in. Mostly it's just going to be a lot of previews and developer presentations, mostly just live stream or pre-recorded video. It'll be cool.
They did something similar last year. They had that game where you could download and kind of walk around the show floor in the convention center, and then they had the different demos that you could jump into. So I'm sure they're going to have something similar to that.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like they're going to be providing virtual lounges, so some shared discussion hubs. So that's
cool.
Yeah, I like it. But it's cool that they're providing these tools and still making it a very interactive event for everybody.
On the front of competition for video cards and possibilities of good news, Pete Brubaker from Intel, who is a HR, senior game developer relations engineer coordinator, seems to be recruiting. They are saying, he said that Intel DG2 is right around the corner. Now, DG2 is the Intel Z platform, but their high performance version that we have yet to actually get the official details. All we've heard is rumors. It's going to be comparable roughly to like a 3070. Hopefully, the rasterization will be comparable to that. But the big thing apparently is supposed to have really good rendering capabilities. So right now, the NVENC is amazing. If you've used a modern NVIDIA video card for its video rendering capabilities, if you're a streamer or a content creator, it's very good. System resources are very, very low. You have built-in hardware for this purpose, and it is extremely effective. AMD, on the other hand, their software stack is not up to that yet. It is the number one reason why I am not even entertaining a 6800 XT or a Big Navi right now, because it's just not there, man. And maybe when their DLS competitor, the Fidelity FX, Super FX comes out, it may be amazing. But right now, I know that's a different technology, but I'm just saying their software just doesn't compare. So maybe the word is the Intel DG2 is supposed to have really good rendering capabilities. So even if it doesn't have all of the feature set that Intel does, if they could compete roughly in a 3070 target space, which we know is the most popular target space, and they could have better rendering than AMD, and maybe if they can combat NVENC or surpass it, who knows? Then they got a winner right there, in my opinion. Okay, so this is it. First official word from an ABI, add-in board manufacturer partner, AIB, pardon. They're confirming the TI officially, and we have the specs for it. And it's exactly like what we were hoping for. We're gonna go full screen on this just so I can kind of give you some rundown and give us our thoughts. So let's just hit these specs real quick. Here's the look for them. Here's their back plates. The most interesting thing is I would love to get a shot of the die or of the PCB itself, but we don't have that yet. I'm real curious where the memory's laying, because if you look at this, okay, let me zoom out a little bit so I can try to get all this in frame. Okay, so on the left here we have the 3090, and then we have the new. This is the 3080 Ti, and we have the 3080 here in the middle. Now let's remember. The 3080 is a cut down 3090. It is the GA102 die. So when you're looking at this, you see this says GA102. This means it's the exact same chip. It's just cut down. What cut down means, when it was fabricated, the silicon does not meet the threshold to sustain the frequencies and the power draw required to maintain the level of performance that this 3090 is. So instead of tossing it out the bin, all they do is they make a cut down version of that, essentially, where it doesn't really matter what gets disabled. They can strategically, because it's a percentage lower, they can strategically disable certain processes on the actual die itself. It's quite amazing how semiconductors are made, but regardless, it's to utilize a non-perfect production. They're making use of it. So that's essentially whenever you see lower tier cards. If you look right here, the 3070, this is a straight up whole other chip. This is a GA104, completely separate. So you see the 3070, the 37 Ti here. So what do we see here? What is the first thing that jumps out at us? Okay. We always knew that the 3090 was barely more powerful, but it was a massive power draw. The biggest thing because it had was the RAM. I want to show you guys something just so I can put this more into perspective for you. Okay, so user benchmarks here. Here's our 3090, here's our 3080. Now, this is all stuff that I say this frequently, but until you actually look at the benchmarks, I'm not sure if it really matters or if it really comes through. Look, we know these prices are fake, right? This is actually like 2,300, yes. So it makes this even worse, right? But look, this is the difference. This is right here what you're paying for. Literally a 12% increase for the money, because you're paying for all of that RAM, and that's the biggest threshold. So what do we get here? Right here, we have the 3090. We know the 3090 here is only 12% faster than the 3080, 10 to 12% faster. Some of the newer, add-in board partners, they have their, the Asus Strix and whatnot. Yeah, those 3090s get a little bit more powerful, but in the general, from overclocking and whatnot. In general, not so much though. So the way that they compensate actually with the totally taking the 3080 out of the situation here, the way that they compromise for the 3090 is they run it at a lower frequency because it has a larger bus, but they are able to put lower frequencies at the higher power draw, because if they went at the higher frequency, this thing already drawing 350 watts. The full power draw under load, Cassette and I remind me, we looked it up ahead of time. I knew it was in the 500s, but it was like 530 at some of the higher add-in board partners, correct?
I don't remember the exact top end, but it was exceeding 5, maybe up to 580 depending.
So this is just the power draw. Remember, the entire PlayStation 5 is that, right? So it's kind of insane that just your video card is going to be doing this. So they have to run this at those. Now, what do we get now with the 3080 Ti? This is quite literally everything we wanted. It is the GA102 die, still amazing. The frequency, you can see it's roughly, it's slower than the 3090, but not really too much. The biggest thing is the memory. So you can see it has half the RAM, has 12 gigs. Now, the number one complaint of the 3090 right now is that it gets too hot, because what happens is the back of the card is where they have those second half of the memory modules, and there's not adequate cooling on those. If you look at the number one fix for fixing the Founders Edition is just to replace the TIM, the thermal interface material. It's as simple as that. But then there are some add-in board partners that are saying, like, it'll void your warranty if you take that off type baloney. Yeah, so
that needs to stop.
It's so stupid, right? So what they've done is they took out they have literally just solved the number one problem with the 3090. Too much RAM and too hot, too powerful. So they're able to now, if you see this now, look, our power draw is now 320. It's still a massive amount of power draw, but this is that 500 watt threshold that you're hitting when you're at the full power draw here. So it's in the danger zone, where now you're going to have a better cooled card, because I'm guessing that they're just going to have all those memory modules on the front. It's just going to be a cut down 3090 that has less memory and it's going to be able to be charged for $1,500 probably retail, you know, and then they're going to sell it for like, it's still going to be like $1,800 or something ridiculous like that, right? But honestly, the money isn't even the thing. The 3090 is somewhat irresponsible to even have in your system. The power draw is insane on it. It's not efficient. Its raw power is good, yes, but even if the money was roughly the same, you're still going, unless you were mining or doing rendering, right? If you're an artist, or if you need the amount of memory, because there are plenty of applications or developers that need that. But if you're a standard gamer, the 3090 is massively overkill for you, and not necessary even in the slightest for most gamers. You're not gonna hit those memory thresholds ever. This is not a controversial opinion. A position. Fairly common opinion is 10 gigs of memory was too little on the 3080 for 4K resolution, because once you start getting into those ultra texture packs and SSAO and more complex shading, and especially with ray tracing, you eat up so much of that resource. Honestly, 12 might be pushing it too. I think AMD hit it right on the money with 16, but there's no way but they don't have GDDR6X. They only have GDDR6, which, if you actually notice on this slide that I didn't notice initially, they had bumped this, the memory on the 3070. This 3070 Ti is going to be monster. I mean, we don't know the core frequency or the core count yet, but we know it's going to be the same die. You can see it's basically just a boost across the board with faster memory. So it's quite insane. Just this alone right here, the memory going from GDDR6 to GDDR6X will make this 3070 Ti destroy that 6800. I don't think the 6800 is going to be able to keep up with it after that. AMD's going to have to come out with something hard, because I could be mistaken, but I truly think that 3070 Ti, if you can get your hand on it, is going to be a monster card.
I would be pretty happy with it, honestly. Although I'd be pretty happy with any card right now, that's for sure.
All this is to say, this is very encouraging. Here's the thing, though. Okay, so the one thing we haven't talked about is the politics of all this. So, like the 3080, the Ti, they're supposed to have these Ethereum or the mining limiters on them. So, hopefully, who knows if that's going to happen or not. Essentially, if they could make these, undesirable for miners, the goal is that, yes, you're still gonna have to compete with scalpers, but who knows? Maybe we'll actually be able to get it on the release day. You're only gonna have your chance for release day, but as soon as they happen, go everywhere and try to get it wherever you can, and hopefully you can get one at some retail store whenever it goes live, whenever they announce them. It's gonna be next month, right? Supposedly they're gonna announce it at the end of this month, with release at the end of next, or in June. So yeah, fingers crossed you can get one. The other thing I was going to say is, let's not forget the 3080 Ti was originally leaked that it was supposed to come out when we heard about it back last year. It was supposed to happen in January. That's when the first release at what's the trade show that happens in Vegas with electronic devices in January?
Electronic show?
CES. Thank you. It was supposed to be at CES this year, and then they have production problems, right? So they didn't need to. So everything is just delayed 6 months. So expect maybe normal production, but they're just starting to finally come into their stride probably on their production. AMD and both NVIDIA and AMD have said that they did not under order on any of their things. The demand is just that high. They're producing more than they ever have before. So they're actually making huge fabs. People are just buying them like crazy, and they're selling directly to miners. And it's kind of just like the thirst is extreme. Okay, so speaking of manufacturing processes, word is that potentially we could see a new revision of the PlayStation 5 coming next year, which makes total sense. Don't forget, Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, all of their CPUs, all of their GPUs, every single console from Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they are all on TSMC 7 nanometer. All of them. So the backlog for that, this is why we have a semiconductor shortage right now, because all of those products are made on that single fab process at Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. So we're on a backlog. So this only makes sense that if they're going for a revision, trying to go to a change in nanometer, if they go to a 6 nanometer, essentially when you change manufacturing processes, you get like a 20% increase. Now, what that means is you can apply that generally. I'm speaking extreme generalizations here. Generally, you can either put that towards performance or efficiency. So they already have a SKU. They have a performance. They have a performance number that all of the developers are currently hitting with the PlayStation 5. They're not going to change that. It's not going to. This is not going to be a PlayStation 5 Pro or anything like that. It's way too early. The most of the population doesn't even have the PlayStation 5 yet. Even though it's on track to be their number. It's already their number one seller, correct? For release to month. I think it's already past the PlayStation 4, if I recall.
Like that. Yeah.
Yes. So even though you can't get your hands on one, they're selling like crazy. So it's awesome that they change manufacturing processes. What it will mean, though, is more performance. You're probably going to have it run cooler and more efficient. So if these do come out, because right now these things are monsters. They can do up to a 500 watt power draw, right? So it's not like nothing to shake a stick at. So if they do it, you can almost be guaranteed that I would put money on the line that you will have the exact same performance with more efficiency. So when you see these headlines, PlayStation 5 redesign, be excited, because that means maybe more availability on a newer manufacturing node, but I would not expect it to be any sort of performance increase.
Yeah, and hopefully that also means an increase in durability and longevity, because you have. I mean, I know that the PS5, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be run hot. Like,
yes.
One of the things that Sony had talked about pretty early on was that it was designed to run at max capacity at all times. And so if you have something that's more efficient, running cooler, probably going to last a whole lot longer as well. So we're going to have newer versions of PS5s that should stand the test of time a little bit better than the initial versions. And unfortunately, this probably isn't going to be happening until, they say, 2022, maybe even 2023. So it's going to be a while. So the shortage is going to stay around. But like you were saying, that's what happens when everyone's on the same node process. So and these kinds of things, these redesigns, they move slow.
Don't forget, they cannot share information. If this is at a different foundry, especially, I don't know where. Have they said where this is being made? Was it TSMC?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I didn't see any indication.
I don't even think we even know the process node, right? This is all purely speculation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did say that 5 nanometer wouldn't happen because it's too costly, or at least they implied heavily that 5 nanometer wouldn't happen.
Sure. So let's not forget, there are massive contracts that go in play with every single one. These are completely separate teams. If they can't even have shared resources, you need to have completely separate architecture teams if you're going to a different foundry. So this would be, they have like their base information, but if there's anything special that TSMC does or anything like that, that's not going over. So what I do think you could expect to see, so essentially they're just trying to hit the same performance number. It's like if I were to put like a one video card in my machine and you put one video card in your machine, as long as we hit the same performance and the developers are able to still program for that number, then that's really all that matters. What I do think you could potentially see is maybe disk space increases or things of that nature, ancillary that aren't directly tied to performance, maybe size, cooling, form factor, things of that nature, but I don't think you're going to see any change in performance.
So apparently we're hearing news about a possible HBO Max series for Bloodborne in the works. Interesting. Apparently coming just behind The Last of Us, as Sony is apparently getting very excited to start using their IP to monetize as a television series as well. Nothing super concrete yet. Just want to specify the fact that this is discussing script drafting, which is currently in the works. It's basically talking about, if I remember correctly, the story is going to just focus on someone kind of being thrown into the fray of the whole night of the hunt situation, kind of like in the game, and then every episode might focus on a sort of a monster of the week sort of situation with bosses, which is a pretty cool idea. Yeah, so far nothing super concrete, nothing to really speculate on. Who knows if this will actually happen? Doesn't seem like there's an actual team or anyone specific that has been tied to this show yet. So we'll have to see as this progresses. But it's pretty cool to see that this is in development. It's always interesting seeing, especially video game IPs being utilized for shows, because you never really know how it's going to turn out. And it's Bloodborne, which is near and dear to our hearts, and works great as a video game, but then you start coming up with new characters,
Dialogue.
It's dialogue. Yeah.
That could be super make or break for me. But the thought of having like bosses at the end of each one, that's pretty cool.
Right, exactly. You've read the comic though. You have the comic. What did you think about that whole situation? Because they kind of gave the hunter characterization, didn't they?
Yes. Okay, so if I recall, it was mostly internal monologuing that the hunter did,
Okay.
and they were protecting a person, like a child, and they had to like take them somewhere. It's been a while since I read it. I actually,
Oh,
yeah,
like Gascoigne's kid, maybe? Or
no, it has no contact or no connection to the video game at all.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a completely separate thing. Um, but yeah, there's a whole they do give I don't there's very little. I'm trying to remember if there's any like actual dialogue or very little. It's mostly like internal monologuing of the hunter.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so we'll have to stay tuned to see if there's any more progress on the development of the show. Something to look forward to. And speaking of new shows in development, something that we've been waiting on for a few years now. I think we heard back in 2017 that it
Something like that.
was Foundation was being picked up to be developed into a show. And these are
Sorry.
the fruits of that. We're gonna go ahead and react to this live because neither of us have do we want to give back? Yeah, we should give background.
We
Okay.
should give
So
background. Go ahead.
yeah. So Foundation is a series of books that were written by Isaac Asimov. You might know him through Robots, or I, Robot, which was based on his works. Isaac Asimov was a prolific sci-fi writer from I don't remember his earliest published works, but at least from the 40s on until his death in the 90s, I want to say. Foundation was originally a series of stories that were published in sci-fi magazines, but then were compiled into full novels, detailing the collapse of a far future human galactic empire and the ramifications of that collapse, the development by one particular Harry Seldon of the concept of psychohistory, being able to mathematically plot out macro view human behavior, and basically planning out a sequence of events to take 30,000 years of post collapse barbarism and turn it into hopefully just a shortened 1,000 years of redevelopment into either a new empire or some other sort of governing body for humanity. And it's basically, well, I think that's enough of an intro for it. We can probably go ahead and react live, and then we can fill in more details as we get in.
One
But
thing I want to mention is it's
Mhm.
not a contained story. Like he
Right.
mentioned, it started off like a series of shorter stories, and the entire thing. I was unaware when I first experienced it the massive time jumps that occur.
Yes.
So and first of all, how political it was. Yes, it's a fantasy sci-fi environment, but it is pure politics. The entire
Mhm.
story is nothing but politics. The politics of war, the politics of conquering, the politics of governance. It is 100% applicable to everyday society. It just happens to be occurring in a fantasy world, so sci-fi world. So the political intrigue, if the acting is good, this should be dynamite. I know nothing about this. This is Harry Seldon, you say, or is it Hardin?
Well, specifically bringing up Harry Seldon because he was the person who developed
Hmm.
psychohistory and kicked off this whole series of events. But Salvor Hardin is the mayor of Terminus, and so I imagine that the first huge chunk of the series is going to deal with Hardin and their exploits or the exploits surrounding them. It's supposed to be possibly 80 episodes, so
Whoa.
their intention, it sounds like, is to be pretty long form. Um,
The initial trilogy, it's a trilogy of books though, so it's quite long.
yeah, the trilogy of books that were written in the 40s, I want to say, and then there were the two additional books that were written in the 80s to finish the series, and then there were two prequel books, something like that. Really, the core three books are the best part, but if you go to the two sequels that were made in the 80s, still excellent end to the series. But yeah, it's not until you get halfway through the series do you start getting the same characters sticking around for a long time. The first couple of books are definitely a ton of time jumps. So there's definitely gonna have to be a lot of fleshing out of stories, of deeper character development. I'm sure they're going to kind of interweave a lot of the characters' stories to make them happen maybe more in a single or reduced time frame. We'll see. It's gonna we'll have to wait until the show comes out, but yeah, adaptations are hard.
Very, especially like
Especially
this.
with source
There's a
material.
lot to put in here. I've only
Mhm.
experienced the initial trilogy, and I listened to it on audiobook, and I loved it. I loved all of it. It was super good. So I'm if the acting is good in this, then we could be in for, or in the dialogue is good. That's going to be the main thing. And I'm just curious. Shall we watch?
Let's watch.
All right, let me go
I'm
full screen,
excited.
and let's check it out.
Only we can shorten the darkness.
People have been trying to make Foundation for over 50 years. Foundation was an enormous influence for Star Wars.
Oh, it's one of these type of vid
It was
docs.
the greatest science fiction work of all
okay.
I thought it was a trailer.
Ooh.
The story is sprawling.
Me too.
The scope is sprawling. It unfolds over the course of 1,000 years. If ever there were a company that was hoping to sort of better people's lives through technology, through connectivity, it's Apple. And that's something very much that Asimov was hoping to do.
What? What a product placement. Oh my, oh, it's an Apple original series. Oh, it's not, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
They're going to arrest me tomorrow. And you. It's almost a certainty. You're familiar with my work, psychohistory?
Yes, in theory, but I don't know what it has to do.
It's not a theory.
They're worried you can predict the future.
They're worried people believe I can. And they don't like the future I predict. The Empire will fall. Order will vanish. This mass of events rushing to meet us.
Only we can shorten the darkness.
So it was Selden. Yo, Cassette's face right now.
Okay. This is interesting. Okay.
The imagery was cool.
The imagery was fantastic.
Y'all have to understand, this is one of Cassette's favorites. I only listened to the audiobooks because he recommended it so highly. So this means a lot to him. Go ahead.
I'm just trying not to be that guy
It's
who's
fine.
like, what have you done? But okay, so this is interesting. So it seems like they're actually going to be cataloging the events of the actual fall of the Empire. That, I don't know if it would necessarily be a spoiler for the book series, because it basically is just the very beginning of the book.
Mhm.
But basically, the fall of the Empire is kind of doesn't matter in the books. It is just something that happens in the background. Everything else is just showing, regular people, maybe not necessarily regular people, but, people outside of the inner scope of the Empire dealing with the fallout of the fall.
Yes.
So this is interesting because I don't care about that. Okay, this could be cool though, because this is, honestly, it's just more foundation. It's just more foundation. This could be a very good thing. What are your thoughts? I'm a little
Okay, so
still
truthfully,
processing.
I remember the big changes. I remember most of the stuff that happens way after this though. Like I don't It's like you say, a lot of this is very inconsequential. It's happened so long in the past that it, like Cassette said, it is how the future society deals with the ramifications of a collapse of a massive civilization. So the fact that I guess we could experience it, but
Mhm.
uh
They're also dealing with the invisible hand of psychohistory and dealing with the idea that they are like an invisible hand is kind of pushing them
mhm,
into certain events and like are we doing
predetermined.
this correctly? And is it predetermined? Like is the Selden plan, as it's called, is it fallible on its own? So it's just
The imagery was rad.
yes.
The Christopher Nolan blob was a little bit overdone. I could do without that, but the
Yeah.
imagery was cool. I don't know if I'll see it. I don't have a subscription to Apple, but it seems
I mean,
neat.
I was thinking about that. I might either pirate it or wait until like most of it comes out and just get a subscription for a month and just power through the entirety of it. But
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel, honestly. I feel okay, maybe, but beyond that, not entirely certain. Definitely some thoughts and feelings I'm gonna have to I think I just need to reread the books and then we'll go from there. And then the more details we get, we'll probably talk about them whenever I'm live or, if we get more information for another episode, we can talk about it some more. Foundation. If you ever want to know more about Foundation, ask me. I'm happy to talk about it. It's a pretty great series. All of Asimov, like robots, Empire, all that kind of stuff. Like, please ask me. They're fantastic books. Aged, very aged in a lot of ways, but definitely
Yeah, but I listened to those in, what was that, 2017 or 2018, so
mhm.
fairly recently, and I thought it was, yes, but it was pretty cool, man. I was definitely hooked. I powered through them fairly quickly, all
Yeah, and
through
our
and all
friend
three.
Pelico too. He borrowed the books from me, and I think he enjoyed it too, actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, ask us. Some pretty cool news. The Ryuga Gotoku team have announced that Lost Judgment is happening, a direct sequel to Judgment, Judge Eyes, as it was called in Japan. Still love that title. They are continuing that story in the Yakuza origin Kamurocho world. Also discussed how the Yakuza series itself is now going to continue with the same gameplay setup as Seven had started with their new characters. It's going to continue to be in that cool Shin Megami Tensei style turn-based RPG, whereas the Judgment series and Lost Judgment are going to continue the original action brawler style of gameplay that they had for Yakuza. So it's really cool that now we have these two completely fleshed out new shared world game series going on. And it's going to be very exciting to see that development. They were also talking about how Yakuza 7 was the most successful title in the entire franchise, which is pretty freaking sweet. And it's also pushing them to focus on working better to have more unified global releases for their games, multi-platform. I'm really excited to see this because until thinking about it recently, I thought that staggered global releases were a thing of the past, but Atlas continues to prove me wrong, especially with the re-release of Nocturne. Persona, I think, too, also suffered a little bit of that, didn't it?
I
I
feel you're
can't remember
being
exactly.
slightly unfair. It's really in regards to budget.
No,
They
you're
can
correct.
they
Yes.
can only produce what they have the budget to produce, and
Mhm.
working, I know firsthand what it's like to deal with translations and how difficult that can be with your product. So I think this is all great news. This is the most
Yes.
that last bit is the most encouraging news because it says that they're giving money to Atlas
Mhm.
to be able to worldwide simultaneously release. You have to think these are extremely dense games, so all of that dialogue has to be pre-approved. It has to be first of all, it has to be translated, has to be approved, has to be sent through. So while they're waiting to do that entire English dub, that's usually when they release the Japanese dub. Japanese release, so they can start building and making money, because the property's hot. Then they've already made, people have already seen it, and now the fact that they would normally have to wait the entire time for it to be translated, this tells me that it's being co-developed in real time. So they have the script writing, and then while they're doing that, they're working on the translation now. And because it's everything, it's the UI, it's the text box size, it's the displays, it's the voiceover, it's so much that it comes into play when it comes to translation. That the fact that they're saying they're committing to a worldwide release on their Persona and SMT series, I think it's just a good news for everybody.
So speaking of Sega, kind of an interesting thing. So Sega Sammy, the actual holding group for Sega and all their brands, they came out with their fiscal or end of fiscal year results presentation, where for their sort of short-term planning, they discussed beefing up their Sonic and Phantasy Star Online brands and, all their other big name titles. They were looking again into their vault, and they want to consider utilizing some of their older titles. Some of them that they list: Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, one of my absolute favorites, Shinobi, which really surprised me, Virtua Fighter. Side note, one of the things that always grinds my gears is when people call it Virtua On, when it's actually Virtual On. But still a Sega brand. I would love to see them do more with that, though, for sure. Streets of Rage, House of the Dead, fuck yes. Rez, I absolutely love Rez. Knights and Panzer Dragoon are interesting ones. There's only a couple of Knights games out there, right? Like, that's kind of like a Sega Saturn, just kind of like...
Well, now there's Bala Wonderland.
Oh, that's right. That's part of that too.
Bala Wonderworld. Welcome to Bala Wonderworld.
Space Channel 5 is just giving me Dreamcast daydreams. I'm feeling very nostalgic with this. But anyway, point being is that I think this is really cool that they're realizing that there is value to their IPs and they want to utilize that. And it is listed in another chart a couple pages back in there, where it's kind of on the like low profit axis of things, but because the IP exists and the assets are there, it would probably be a low investment thing for them. But just being able to get more of these classic games, new installments, that I'm excited. I want to play more Jet Set Radio. They have that new Jet Set Radio like game coming out. Do you remember what that was called?
Nope. I remember sharing the discussion about it. One thing I will say is, okay, so I love the Dreamcast. It's the first console I ever bought myself. I worked at Software Etc. when it came out. And I remember I was in my room and my mom came in and she's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Dreamcast." She's like, "Did you buy it?" And I was like, "Yup." I felt good, it was like good purchase. So I love the Dreamcast. I played a lot of it. Having said that, these titles, often these titles are wax poetically with nostalgia from people who play them, but are solidly mid-tier in their execution. So yes. While I think this is cool and encouraging, if we see it, might be fun for here and there, but a lot of these properties, they're neat and fun. None of these have me blowing out of my mind for them. No. I do love House of the Dead. My favorite thing about House of the Dead, though, was Typing of the Dead. It was a keyboard typing game, and I had the Dreamcast keyboard, and I had the Dreamcast VGA adapter, so you could hook it up to a CRT monitor. Super crystal clear. It was amazing. I gave my Dreamcast to my buddy, man. I even had the Samba de Amigo maracas. I don't know, whatever. It was weird.
Mine still works if you ever want to play. Just the CMOS battery.
That's the thing. I don't really want to play. There's no right stick. The games aren't really that fun to play.
Very bad controller. It's a very bad controller.
If they're the 2D games are kind of fun, but they were really pushing the 3D. These games are not the most fun in order to actually play. But maybe on new versions of them could be adapted to new things. Who knows? I'm not opposed to it. It's just these are all like, yeah, cool. For me, that's my reaction. That's my reaction.
I did replay Jet Set Radio on the PS3 pretty recently, and the control scheme was pretty frustrating. It's not the
Extremely
greatest game to
frustrating.
play. I would love to try playing Future again to re-experience that to see what kind of improvements they had made again. But like especially games like Crazy Taxi, the music in that, the music and visual vibe of Jet Set Radio, like I think those were amazing experiences.
Yeah.
Yes, nostalgia glasses, but if I could get, I mean, I think, oh man, oh no, this is how it is when you get older. God, you just want to you just want those experiences back from your childhood. But honestly, like I'm here for it. Even if it's just like low budge games, I don't care. Give me a little bit more Jet Set Radio, and I'll be happy as a clam.
You say that, but I remember when you streamed Jet Set Radio. Okay.
Nobody needs to know the VOD's gone. I wasn't getting frustrated at all.
Okay, Crazy
ever.
Taxi's fun. Jet Set Radio is fun for like 10 minutes. Space Channel 5 is freaking incredible. Space Channel 5 is probably the best game on this list that is legitimately wonderful. Rez is really fun.
Played it.
Oh, Ooh La La is a great character. You got to play it. Ooh La La is wonderful. Panzer Dragoon is fun. I really like it, but it's like an on-rail shooter. You know what I mean? It's again, all these are all fun games, but not like the amazing thing. Knights, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy that's going to tell you Knights is a good game and that you should play it, because it's not, and you shouldn't. Shinobi is pretty good. You know, it's like it's no Ninja Gaiden though. I'm a Ninja Gaiden fan, so Shinobi's not bad, but it's no Ninja Gaiden. Virtua Fighter, I will say, Virtua Fighter, that was one of those ones that I used to go to the arcade, play Daytona, and Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. You got Ryu, Hadouken, and then I'd go over and play some Virtua Fighter because I worked at the mall. Go over and have lunch at the Okie Dokie Grill, and then go play some arcade games, play some Street Fighter, play some Virtua Fighter. And I have to say, Virtua Fighter 3 is still awesome. Virtua Fighter is still a fun game. It's just solidly mid-tier fighter, right? Altered Beast, boy, I remember Altered Beast when that came out. That was like one of the ones that shipped with the Genesis, and kind of like the Mario of it. And it's like a standard side-scrolling beat 'em up. Nothing spectacular though. House of Dead, amazing. Streets of Rage, incredible. So Soul Hackers, I don't know Soul Hackers. Not familiar.
I know the title. I don't know much about it, unfortunately. I'm just realizing, GameWorks still exists and it's still open apparently.
Yes.
I think I need an arcade experience, man.
Do we need to do a sorry for the Windows? do we need to do
I was gonna let it be.
Budsday GameWorks Day?
I think we do. Yeah.
Do you wanna take this one as well?
Yeah. So Rock Paper Shotgun reported on this new Intel AI based photorealistic, the best term probably streaming. Basically it's a AI based tool that will take a moving image from a game, from the actual game engine, and will re-render it using an asset library of reference photos to basically just recreate the entire scene. It's actually
incredible.
The discussion is really interesting because the tech behind it is fascinating. So it goes into the game and reads the game's G buffers, which describe where objects are in a real 3D space relative to the camera. It searches for objects that it recognizes. It even has I was showing Sun earlier, they developed like probability heat maps for where you would expect to see trees, buildings, road, cars, etc. So it knows to look stronger in very specific areas for certain things. It sends that data to its reference library, pulls all that information, and kind of using the G buffer information relays all that new visual information on top of the game, so you get this photorealistic kind of recreation of what is going on in the game. It's pretty fast. One of the things that they talk about is that it has very little to no what's the word, temporal stuttering, is it?
I'm not sure.
basically in some of the examples of other methods that they show, the placement of the reference photos and information is very inconsistent. So you get a lot of very jumbly,
Yes.
kind of jittery things. And this one is very stable, comparatively speaking. So the tech is incredible. This is great. It also looks drab as hell.
It's like a 480p overcast day. I heard this on TechLink. They said it's like a 480p overcast drab day, and I thought that was perfect. That's exactly what it looks like.
Google Street View
Yes.
5, basically.
Yes. It's still awesome though.
Yeah, to pull this information from the actual game engine and connect it to your asset library, like this could be a very interesting way to not necessarily develop games in the future, but to we talk about Unreal Engine a lot and how Epic has been kind of streamlining its pipeline of asset and art creation and putting it into a game engine and being able to have something playable or even usable in motion picture. Like you never know what kind of use you might find for this sort of thing. The drabness definitely is a product of just the asset library that they're using. I mean, this is kind of a proof of concept, right? Like they're not going to get 4K images. I don't even know if it has, whatever they're using has the throughput to be able to generate anything higher quality than what they do now. But the fact that they've gotten this far, hell yeah, good fucking job. This is incredible. Yeah, could look nicer. But that's, art direction. Whatever, that's okay.
Finally, a bit of good humorous news. I just thought this was too funny not to share. Jordan Patty. Okay, so basically he played a ton of MLB The Show, and that's how he scored his pitching wins. And he thought he's locked down in COVID or because of COVID. And his quote was, "All these guys are throwing cutters." With a Patty said with a laugh. Speaking of that pitch that Yankees legend Marino Rivera threw exclusively during the career that made him the first player ever elected unanimously to the Hall of Fame, I figure I might as well try it. So essentially, he just saw it happening and all of these perfect these cutter pitches. And then just applied in real life. That's too funny. That's incredible, man. That's incredible. GG. Well done.
It just goes to show that, sometimes your efforts in video games can actually apply to real life stuff.
Yeah.
So, never hate on it,
I thought it was great. Little feel good story.
Congratulations, Patty.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it for us for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anything coming up? We have Final Fantasy VII Integrate coming out fairly soon.
Less than a month now. Yeah.
They said it's still going to be exclusive for 6 months or so. That was what the last word that I heard, which sounds about right. So we're going to see probably Christmas time. You're going to see it on Xbox and PlayStation or on PC.
Oh, hopefully. Other
least
than
PC,
that,
hopefully.
yeah, I don't think anything big is going to be coming out that's noteworthy until after E3, right? Because that's basically that's next month where we're coming up on it. So I'm just hoping that we're going to see more Elden Ring news, as we always hope. Yeah, never know.
I'd like to see Breath of the Wild 2. I want to see what they're doing.
Yes,
please.
I keep forgetting that's in development. Oh my goodness.
Maybe Bayonetta 3, but Kamiya said, "Don't worry about it right now. It's not happening soon." Also Metroid Prime 4. I'd love to see if they could show us any of that. I am very keen on what Nintendo has to show this year, so I'm interested.
Well, we're looking forward to it. E3, it's going to be a nice time, hopefully. Yeah.
For the foreseeable future, I'll probably be playing some Resident Evil. I don't know what I'll be streaming, but we'll figure it out. We got to finish our Nier playthrough as well and get that up.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, for streaming, I don't really have anything that I want to jump into immediately. I think I'm just going to be playing, working on village runs and probably playing a little bit more Heat. I honestly, that week that I was just racing and chilling with everyone, those were some really fun streams. They were really comfy for me, so I'm hoping that I hope to continue that, actually. Yeah.
I really enjoyed when you got pulled over. That was one of my favorite clips that I had from.
It made me so mad. Why didn't I think to pause the game?
It was pretty good. Speaking on it, can I share the clip? The knee hit clip. So this, y'all, was kind of wild. I smacked my knee, and well, let's just watch what happened, because I feel like everybody will appreciate this. If you're a friend of the show, then you've seen this already. But if not, boy oh boy, this was too funny. I'm trying not to take too long. Oh! Wow. I can't believe it. I hit my knee so hard it made him stagger. I can't believe it.
It's perfect.
I'm trying not to take too long. Oh, wow. Dude, he drops his like ash. That's what actually burns him. Right? You'll see him touch it. Doink.
Oh, that's what I see. I kept missing that detail.
Yeah. Try not to take too long. Oh,
I thought it was just a weird laugh.
No, it's
okay. Makes
perfect. It's so funny though. Anyway. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I don't know exactly how the schedule is going to align with E3 itself, but we'll probably have to do some tighter episodes. Then we'll try to come out maybe with some more kind of real time information when E3 is happening. So instead of like waiting the 2 week in between, I'm not sure exactly. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see the timing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for hanging. Cassette, cheers. Pleasure as always.
Cheers. Thanks again, everyone.
Later, guys.